As a board game collection grows, you find you favour some games over the other. So today we're talking about 5 games that we favour over other games in our collection.
Hi, I'm Libby, this is Julian, together we are BoxedMeeples, and today we're talking about games that we might pull off the shelf over another game. We got this idea from Nick at the Brothers Murph. I'm sure that you all follow the Brothers Murph, they are amazing, but just in case there's 1 or 2 of you out there, do check them out. Great channel, love all of their content, they're brilliant, so make sure that you have a look over there. So he was basically saying what games he would pick off of his shelf over another game, and was totally would definitely play any of these games, and the same with us. We love all of the games that we're mentioning here. It's just a case of if someone said, would you want to play that over the other, or if I came to the shelf and was saw them both, which one would I pick off the shelf first?
Yeah, I think it's important that these aren't games we now dislike, but tastes change over time.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these games we've had for a number of years now, and we've since got games we prefer for the kind of level of games that we enjoy playing. That's not to say we now want to sell all of these games that we're mentioning and get rid of them completely from our collection, because they all still have a place in our collection. It's just that, were we to choose, as Libby said, we would choose one over the other.
And Nick said to mention in the comments what we would do, so instead we thought we'd do a video on it.
As well. So let's kick off with the first game we prefer over another game. Now, a really great place to start is a game called Lords of Waterdeep. It's a kind of a quintessential worker placement game, and we played it so much when we first started dating. Yeah,
well, and into lockdown, we both had the apps. We were able to play it when we weren't in the same household and things quite easily. You're on the phone, you're on the app together, you feel like you're playing the board game as much as you could at that time.
And as we said at the beginning, it's not I now dislike Lords of Waterdeep, I just really prefer Yado. Now, Yado has the same sort of placing workers out on the board. You're still hoping to get, the spots you need to complete the missions you've got, but it's got so much more going on than it does in Lords of Waterdeep, which can feel quite lucky at times. Yado, I find, mitigates a lot of that luck, and it feels much more strategic, much more, focused on precise planning out and hoping that those plans come together, particularly when you're going for those really hard black missions.
Yeah.
So Lords of Waterdeep is fantastic to introduce people to those kind of worker placement mechanisms. It's just that if we had a choice, I know for a fact you would choose Yado every single time.
Yeah, I mean, I played Yado prior to Lords of Waterdeep, so for me it's like it's never taken over from that, but it was a great more of an introduction game for you at that point, because I'd been playing Yado since the first edition came out, so then introducing you to that was great.
It was a lot less daunting than Yado would have been. I do enjoy Lords of Waterdeep. If someone said to me play it, I would, but
with Skull Deep.
Yes, that's the thing. If we had Skull Deep, this is a different conversation.
It is.
But at the moment, Lords of Waterdeep, no, Yado, yes.
So for my choice, there's plenty of card game that we enjoy, especially when travel and things like that, and some of them which we enjoy playing at 2 players, particularly Tussie Mussy. We played quite a lot of it actually over the summer, and it's the I cut, you choose situation. And recently we've played Hanamakoji, which you got on a Kickstarter with Geisha's Road.
Yes.
I hadn't actually played that one before, and I feel like potentially Hanamakoji is going to upscale from Tussie Mussy for me, potentially because we've played a lot of Tussie Mussy over the last year or so. You've done a lot of print and play runs and things like that, so we took it on holidays and all sorts, and Hanamakoji just seems to I gravitate towards that artwork a lot more, so aesthetically it ticks all my boxes a bit more, but also you've got those different actions that you're trying to do, so there's a little bit more of what you're going to do on your turn, which is similar to Tussie Mussy, but it's like which time are you going to do what turn, and that's also as important in terms of your head and thinking space and how many cards are out there. I think it's easier to work out in Hanamakoji whether you're going to sway it your way, what cards you've seen or placed out already, or you haven't, whereas you can still do that. You still know, oh, there's probably not another orange flower out there, whatever. But this is a little bit more clear.
And I think particularly with all the expansions we've got with the Kickstarter edition, there's a lot more variety in Hanamakoji. Different envelopes allow you to have different combinations of the skills you have, whereas Tussie does feel very much the same thing.
Yeah, we don't play it without the ribbons and things now, which are added onto that. And as I say, we will still take it to places. But I feel like Hanamakoji potentially can fill that space, because you can play it on a relatively small kind of table in terms of travel.
We played it in cafes and bars and things.
Yeah.
I think also it feels slightly like with Tussie, the more you play it with one person, the easier it becomes to read them. And you can start seeing, I can kind of gauge what you're doing in that. And maybe because we haven't played Hanamakoji as much. Interestingly, it's kind of the opposite to what we were just saying about Yado and Waterdeep, because I played Hanamakoji a long time ago before I played Tussie, whereas you hadn't. Yes. So to you, Hanamakoji is all fresh and new, whereas Tussie is familiar.
Yeah, I mean, are we just diving into the cult of the new right
That's
here
what
with these ones? But yeah, at the moment, I like both, but I would pick Hanamakoji off the shelf for a 2-player. Yeah.
Now, while we're on the subject of Cult of the New, I have found a replacement for Pandemic. Although, is it a replacement for Pandemic?
It's a bit samey.
I'm of course referring to Star Wars: The Clone Wars, a Pandemic system game. I love Pandemic. I've talked about this a lot. I love all the Pandemics, particularly obviously the seasons. And I'm not actually referring to those. I'm talking more about base Pandemic and some of its expansions. I would always choose to play now Star Wars: The Clone Wars over that, because it takes all the good bits of Pandemic, makes it marginally quicker to play, marginally quicker to set up, but most importantly, it hasn't got a theme that's kind of repellent to people. And I think that's important to consider now, because the majority of our friends would love to play a Star Wars game, but I do think there's a sticking point with some people just with the title of Pandemic now. There's a lot of bad memories connected to that kind of period of all of our lives. So some people just don't want to touch that.
Yeah, but it's great to still have that mechanism there that gives you that angst. Oh my gosh, look at all those, like, they're coming out on the table, just they're everywhere. Someone needs to go and manage that place. Someone needs to go and manage that planet. You still have that angst.
Yes, and I think that's what's so great about Star Wars, the Clone Wars. They kept all of that tension, all of that increasing amount of board filling upness, but just made it a different theme, a quicker, easy to explain in a way game that just for me is the go-to.
Yeah, and I like that there's different baddies and then they react differently, so your games can be mixed up and a little bit more varied. Based on who you're bringing to the table, in your character choice and what they do, and also in the baddies and how they operate. That's nice. And
by having miniatures rather than the cubes, it's got a much more luxurious table presence. So
and someone paints those, so
that makes it look. Can't paint cubes, doesn't work so well. So that's why I've chosen. I would now choose Star Wars: The Clone Wars over kind of base Pandemic game.
Yes. Right, the next one for me is, I think anyone who watches the channel regularly knows that I'm not a huge social deduction fan, although we do play quite a lot of social deduction games. It's definitely more your sort of base.
But I came from a background of playing a lot more party games than you did, so I still see echoes of those in those.
Yeah, and there's been some of them that I haven't enjoyed my gameplay that much. There's been games of Avalon where I've just sat there and felt like I did barely anything in the whole of the game, and other people were sort of acting around doing their roles, and I was sort of never picked or got to really influence in the game that much. And now we have Hollywood 1947. And I really quite enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, it can be controversial for some, and I totally understand that. You know, some feel like the political vibes of some of these games are a little off-putting. But I like the artwork of the old style movies. I like the fact that you're rolling the dice, and in actual fact, it's not based on a dice roll as to whether you're going to be in or out of the game, even though it might appear that. It's based on negotiations. and can I have another reroll? Oh, would I be able to choose my new cards, please? And we've played it at some of the higher numbers where everyone has a job role, but I do really like it where you can trade in your job roles as well and switch out for who you want to be.
That's what's good. There's always an opportunity to do something in that game in your round, even if you don't have the dice roll you need. You can swap your roll, or you can change the dice. You can re-roll and get back involved. But as you're saying, it's so clever that that's a trigger point for discussion.
Yeah.
The dice roll.
And I think even when you aren't ending up contributing to the movie, that does tell you something about the others around the table. It's actually sometimes more key to find out what's in that little stack when there's only maybe 2 or 3 people contributing than it is when there's a lot of people contributing. So
I found myself even begging for someone to change my dice roll because I don't want to contribute to this because I won't be doing us any favours. And then even when you are in the opposite position, you can start using that excuse to then start persuading them. So
so I have been really enjoying that one, and I would say that it's my favourite social deduction game by a little way. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny you say about social deduction games. Now, a few years ago, I discovered the game Dead of Winter, and wow, that was a game changer because I learned that these board games had fun kind of moving around board mechanics, but more important than that was what's going off above the table, other players and trying to work out what their agenda was. I really loved Dead of Winter.
Wasn't it one of the games that first sort of like drew you into the hobby proper? Yeah,
that's how I transitioned really from party games to more more recognisable war games for us now. And I didn't know there were games like that amalgamated the trying to guess what your opponents are doing and also having your own agenda. And I thought, wow, this is brilliant. Then I discovered a space type game that has all of that traitor mechanisms in, and on top of that had this amazing kind of spaceship exploration, battling with aliens, although of course they're not aliens in Nemesis. And now I will choose Nemesis every single time over Dead of Winter, to the point that we don't have Dead of Winter in our collection. We don't actually have Nemesis in our collection, but we would do.
But literally every other person that we play games with on a regular basis owns that game and probably in varying forms. Yeah. So like some of them have lockdown, and some of them are also intending on getting the new version that'll be coming out next time. So at the moment we'd love it, but
it's kind of telling that if I saw Dead of Winter and Nemesis on the shelf, and someone else have one of these, I would never choose Dead of Winter now. I'd always grab Nemesis.
Yeah, and even though it has that sentimental draw you into the hobby, it's still not going to get picked off the shelf over a game of Nemesis. Yeah, so, for sure.
Nemesis is
a great game.
It's definitely my choice over Dead of Winter.
So those were our choices of ones that we would pick off the shelf over another game. As we said at the beginning, we still love both of those games, but just which ones we would tend to want to play.
And I think that's all entirely fine because people's tastes change over time. You discover new things, and now you think, oh, this is better than what I used to really love. And that's all fine, and that's what's great about the industry and the evolving industry. And I'm sure we've got some games on our shelves that we're going to play and love. And then older games that we won't play as much. And we've just picked up Wonderland's War, for example.
Yeah, and Distilled. And I wonder how we will feel against those two, against games like Clank and Quacks, which both have that sort of bag-pulling luck elements within them. Will either of those overtake that? And I think that's nice that the games evolve and different ones come out. You evolve as a player and you get to know more types of games, and you push in a direction where your taste sort of aligns to that a little bit more.
If I'm honest about in this video, would I choose any other game other than Root if I had a choice? Probably not. Let's play Root all the time. But do let us know down in the comments which games you used to really love, which games you now prefer to play. Really love to hear, and also which games that we love, which you think, if you love that, maybe you'll enjoy this game more. Please do let us know.
That would be lovely. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Of course, if you're new to the channel, do consider subscribing. We'd also love that, and maybe click the bell so you can hear all about our other videos that we have coming up. We tend to do 2 to 3 videos per week, all about board games.
So thanks, Nick, for the question and the original idea, and thank you also so much for watching.
Bye.